There is a silence that enters a home when a life partner is gone. It is not just the absence of a personite, it is the absence of shared laughter, shared tea, shared arguments, and even shared silence. And in that silence, many people ask a question that has no easy answer. Now, what is left for me? Today, let us not rush to fill that silence. Let us sit with it, understand it, and slowly learn how it can transform us, not destroy us. 1. The empty chair and the unfinished tea. There is a kind of silence that enters a home after a life partner is gone. And it is not just the absence of sound. It is the absence of shared routines, shared glances, and even shared silence that once felt comforting. I once met an elderly man who quietly revealed something that stayed with me deeply. Every morning, he still prepared 2 cups of tea, even though only one was ever touched. When I asked him why he continued this habit, he smiled faintly and said that he had not yet learned how to stop loving in half measures. For him, love had not ended with death, it had simply lost its physical direction. 1 cup was for him, and the other was for memory. The empty chair beside him was not a void he ignored, but a presence he acknowledged in silence. At first, people around him worried that he was stuck in the past. But in reality, he was slowly learning how to live with it. Grief does not disappear when we want it to. It settles into daily life, into habits, into pauses between actions. The empty chair became part of his morning ritual, not as pain alone, but as remembrance. Over time, something subtle changed within him. He no longer cried every time he saw the 2nd cup. Instead, he would sit quietly, sip his tea, and smile at the memories that came and went like passing clouds. The chair remained empty, but his heart slowly began to expand around that emptiness. Learning that love does not require physical presence to remain real, only a heart willing to remember gently. 2. The woman who talked to her garden. There is a kind of grief that does not speak loudly but expresses itself through quiet continuation of love. I once heard about an elderly woman who lost her husband after nearly 50 years of marriage. After his passing, her home became quieter, and her family worried that she was slowly withdrawing from life. But something unusual began to happen every morning. She would walk into her small garden and begin talking softly to her plants. At first, her neighbors thought it was loneliness taking unusual shape. But when someone gently asked her about it, she explained that her husband had loved those flowers deeply, and speaking to them felt like she was still sharing her day with him. In that garden, she was not escaping reality, she was adapting to it. The flowers became her silent listeners, and her words became her way of continuing connection. It was not denial of loss, but a transformation of love. In her voice, there was both sadness and warmth, as if memory itself had become alive in petals and soil. As months passed, her conversations changed. Earlier, she would speak with tears in her eyes, recalling what she had lost. But slowly, gratitude began to enter her voice. She would thank him for the years they shared, for the laughter, and even for the small daily arguments that now felt precious. This shift is what healing often looks like. It does not erase the past, it reframes it. The garden was no longer just a place of remembrance, but a place of gentle acceptance. She discovered that love does not end with physical absence. It simply finds new ways to exist, quietly, patiently, within the rhythm of life that continues. 3. The pain no one teaches us to carry. There is a truth about grief that few people talk about openly. No one truly prepares us for it. We are taught how to build careers, how to raise families, how to plan for retirement, but we are never taught how to sit in a room where someone we love deeply is no longer present. That kind of silence feels unfamiliar, almost heavy in a way words cannot fully describe. After losing a life partner, many people silently struggle with emotions they do not know how to express. They often believe that strength means not crying, or that healing means quickly moving forward. Some even feel guilty for laughing again, as if joy itself is a betrayal of love. But grief does not follow logic or timelines. The truth is, love does not disappear with death. It changes its form. It becomes memory, reflection, and sometimes quiet presence in everyday life. The challenge is not in forgetting, but in learning how to carry that love without letting it break us. Many people try to rush their healing, but emotional wounds do not respond to speed. They respond to acceptance. There are days when the loss feels overwhelming, and there are days when it feels slightly lighter. Both are part of the same journey. There is no correct way to grieve, only honest ways. Over time, something begins to shift. The sharpness of pain softens. The memories that once caused tears may begin to bring a gentle smile. Life does not return to what it was, but it slowly becomes something new. And in that process, we learn an important truth. Healing is not about moving on from love, but learning how to move forward with it still safely held within us. 4. The train journey of life. Life can often be understood like a long train journey. We board at different stations, meet different people, and share parts of the journey with them. Some stay with us for a short while, others for many decades. A life partner often becomes the person who sits beside us for most of the journey, sharing every view, every conversation, and even every silence. But as the journey continues, there comes a moment when one passenger leaves the train. When a life partner is gone, the seat beside us feels permanently empty. It is not just physical absence, it is emotional disorientation. The rhythm of daily life feels altered, as if a familiar part of the journey has suddenly ended. Yet, the train does not stop. The world outside continues to move. New landscapes appear outside the window, whether we are ready for them or not. And slowly, something begins to settle within us. We realize that although the companion is no longer physically present, the journey itself still continues. At first, this realization feels difficult to accept. We may feel guilty for moving forward or hesitant to experience new moments of joy. But over time, understanding deepens. We begin to see that those who traveled with us would not want the journey to end with their departure. They would want us to keep moving, to keep noticing life passing by. The empty seat remains a reminder not of absence alone, but of shared travel. It holds memories of conversations, laughter, and companionship. And as the train moves forward, we slowly learn that continuing the journey is not an act of forgetting, but an act of honoring the time we were blessed to share together. 5. A man who learned to walk again. There is a form of grief that quietly stops a person from living fully. I once heard about a retired school teacher who lost his wife after 50 years of marriage. After her passing, his world became very small. He stopped going out, reduced his conversations, and spent most of his time sitting in silence. Even simple daily walks, which they once shared together, completely stopped. His family tried to encourage him gently, but nothing seemed to help. The absence he felt was not just emotional, it affected his entire rhythm of life. Every corner of the house reminded him of shared memories, and every routine felt incomplete. One day, his young grandson visited him and insisted that they go for a walk together. Reluctantly, he agreed. They walked slowly through a nearby park, a place he had once visited daily with his wife. The surroundings were familiar, yet emotionally heavy. At one point, he stopped and said softly that his wife used to walk there with him every evening. There was pain in his voice, but also memory. The grandson, holding his hand, simply said that maybe he could walk that same path for her now. That simple sentence did not erase his grief, but it created movement within it. Something shifted. He did not suddenly become joyful or free from sadness, but he began walking again the next day and the day after that. Over time, those walks became a quiet ritual, not of forgetting, but of continuing. Each step was a reminder that while love changes form, it does not disappear. He learned that healing does not always arrive as a sudden transformation. Sometimes it arrives as a single step, repeated gently until life begins to move again. 6. Solitude is not loneliness. After losing a life partner, many people begin to experience solitude in a way they never have before. At first, it feels heavy and unfamiliar. The house feels quieter, the mornings feel slower, and even ordinary tasks seem to carry emotional weight. In such moments, solitude is often mistaken for loneliness. But there is an important difference between the two. Loneliness says, I am incomplete. Solitude, however, says, I am learning to be whole again. One comes from lack, the other from reflection. One drains energy, the other slowly restores it. In the early stages of grief, solitude can feel uncomfortable. The absence of conversation, shared meals, and daily companionship creates a sense of emptiness. Many people try to fill this space quickly, fearing the silence. But healing often requires us to sit with that silence rather than escape from it. As time passes, something begins to shift. Solitude starts to become less about absence and more about presence within oneself. It becomes a space where thoughts can settle, where memories can be gently revisited, and where emotions can be understood without judgment. In this quiet space, people often rediscover parts of themselves that were long forgotten. Interests that were once set aside begin to return. Small joys, such as reading, walking, or simply sitting with tea, start to feel meaningful again. Solitude slowly transforms into a companion rather than an enemy. It does not mean the grief disappears. It means the person begins to grow around it. The silence that once felt heavy begins to feel spacious. And in that space, healing quietly unfolds, not by removing love, but by learning how to live with it in a calmer, more grounded way. 7. Healing is not forgetting, it is remembering differently. One of the deepest misunderstandings about grief is the belief that healing means forgetting. Many people assume that if memories still bring emotion, then healing has not yet begun. But in reality, healing is not about erasing the past. It is about transforming the way we hold it within ourselves. In the early stages of loss, remembering often brings intense pain. A simple object, a place, or a sound can trigger deep waves of emotion. It feels as if the absence is being experienced all over again. During this phase, it is natural to feel overwhelmed, but with time, something subtle begins to change. The same memories that once caused tears may begin to soften. They do not lose meaning, but they lose sharpness. Instead of breaking the heart, they begin to gently touch it. Eventually, remembrance transforms again. It becomes less about pain and more about gratitude. The focus shifts from what has been lost to what was once shared. The laughter, the companionship, the years together begin to feel like blessings rather than wounds. This does not mean sadness disappears completely. It simply means that sadness no longer dominates the memory. Love remains, but it becomes quieter, more stable, more integrated into daily life. Healing, therefore, is not a process of erasure, it is a process of integration. The person who has been lost continues to live within memory, but without causing constant pain. Their presence becomes part of one's inner world, carried gently rather than painfully. In this way, remembering becomes an act of love, not suffering. And slowly, life begins to feel balanced again, not because the loss is forgotten, but because it has been accepted with a softer heart.